the town manager to announce the protocols.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To begin, I ask everyone to ensure their phone is on silent. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town's YouTube. For those in the room, it is important that you remain quiet unless participating in the discussion. And if you're participating in the discussion, speak audibly into your microphone. For those on Zoom, it is important that you keep your camera off and microphone muted unless participating in the discussion. If you are participating in the discussion, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera. If you are a resident who would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature. For speakers both in person and over Zoom, please state your name and the street that you live on for record keeping purposes before you make your comment. Before you make your comments. If this meeting gets interrupted for any reason, I will immediately end the Zoom and send a new link via email. Now turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So since this is a work session, I'm turning it over to our distinguished council president, and we're gonna briefly after this work session have a council meeting, which I'm sure will be necessary. So thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we hopefully will have access to the agenda either online or in paper. And the first item is the town manager's report. And I believe the town manager is responsible for that. So EJ.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, are we going to add something to the agenda,
Yeah.
right?
That's for the special council meeting.
Once some special council. Okay, thanks.
Thank you all. So I'll begin by going over, I made some edits in the blue text that signifies edits made after I originally stood out. So I'll start with those. First, and for non-agenda items, I briefly wanted to touch on sidewalk repairs, which has been an ongoing issue the town has been tackling. The week of July 7th, 2025, precision concrete cutting shaved 203 sections of sidewalk across the town of Somerset. These improvements have made our sidewalks smoother, safer, and more accessible to everyone. Going forward, after speaking with vendors and with other municipalities, I believe this type of townwide shaving should be something we incorporate into our long-term planning to aim to do roughly every 3 years. In the packet, in the manager's report, there is 5 examples of before and after the shaving. And then furthermore, 8 sidewalk spots that were too broken up to be shaved and need a full replacement are slated to be replaced this week on July 25th. 1 on Surrey, 1 on Trent, 1 on Greystone, 3 on Warwick, 1 on Cumberland, 1 on Grantham. And then the rest of my report mainly concerns each individual agenda item. So I won't go over each item now, and I'll save it for each item. But I'm also happy to answer any questions if there are any about the report or anything else.
Thank you, EJ. Next 2 items are both
Sorry,
reports.
can I ask a question on the report?
Go ahead.
Yeah, on the sidewalk repairs, first of all, I want to thank you very much. I think that, it's really excellent that so much of the work has been done and several sidewalks have been improved as a result of the shaving. The only question I have is whether Dewberry will now check after July 25th to make sure that all the work that's been done meets whatever standards they need to meet.
Yes, that is the plan.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Any other comments or questions for EJ on it? No? Okay, then, EJ, are we going to get a representative from either the traffic group or Dewberry for either of these reports?
Both of them are already here on the Zoom.
They're on the
There's
Zoom.
a
Okay, all
representative
right.
from the traffic group and a representative from Dewberry.
All right, good. All right, well, we'll start with the traffic study report. I hope people have had a chance to read it. And EJ also summarized it for us in his report. So any comments or questions? Debbie, did you have any comments on it?
No, that was pretty good.
Okay, and Rohit?
Yes, I have many. I think that we've also received some comments from the chair of the public safety
Yes, we
committee.
did.
So it would be useful to just hear from EJ on the questions there. So I don't know if I should repeat, because a lot of my comments overlap with the comments from the chair of the public safety committee.
I do not believe I received the public safety committee's comments.
In the traffic group?
Yes. About the actual study.
Not the actual study.
More about Wani, it would come from.
Yeah, come on.
So are you planning to have the traffic, the chair, public safety report, or because otherwise Councilmember Khanna could just ask us questions.
I don't know if Kumar.
I don't think it was, I think that, I mean, this is a council work session, so he's here as a resource.
Yeah.
But I think you should go ahead and ask all your questions.
Okay, so why don't I go ahead and then if he's online, he can come in with other points. I think the issue, one of the issues that I have is that there were a few items on the description of work in the May 21st contract with the traffic group that don't seem to have been addressed in their report. So for example, task A was to determine if existing landscaping is impacting safety. There was no reference to that as far as I could tell. We were also expecting preliminary cost estimates for various items recommended. And they have very helpfully recommended many items, especially sign replacements, repairs, curb, yellow painting, and so on, but no cost estimates for any of the proposed changes, as far as I could tell. Also,
Do you want
Do you want to take it piece by piece?
you want to go one by one? That's
Yeah,
fine. So, okay,
yeah.
so why don't we take the first one, which is the question of whether landscaping is impacting safety.
So could we have a response from the traffic group?
They need to identify themselves.
Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, remember to identify yourself, please, because we're taping this.
Yes, my name is Paul Dorr and I am the Director of Traffic Engineering at the Traffic Group. Your first question about landscaping, that was covered under the site distance area where we looked at site distance for the intersections. And there was some issues with a few signs where some of the shrubs and trees blocked existing sight lines to a few of the signage. Other than that, we didn't have any comments concerning landscaping.
Thanks. Let me just, related to this question of landscaping and impacting safety, I think the specific issue that we have is that, maybe I'll direct this question also to EJ. The original objective of having this study done by traffic safety specialists was to examine two intersections specifically in the town. The one at Warwick Lane and Cumberland, and Devon and Dorset. And I'm assuming that you looked at those. But what specifically was the request, and I believe that the town attorney had pointed this out, and this was in the decision of the council at that time, was that there were a number of recommendations that the Public Safety Committee had made to enhance safety at those two intersections. And the idea was to have a professional consultancy to look at those intersections, to look at the recommendations of the Public Safety Committee and advise us on whether they met professional standards or engineering standards or not. And I see nothing in the report that says, oh, okay, we looked at the Public Safety Committee's recommendations and this works or this doesn't work. So my question is, did you look at the Public Safety Committee's recommendations? Because this was the original objective of this assignment. A lot of other things, expansion along Cumberland and Dorset and addressing school operations was something that we in the council sort of added on because we were already going to have this consultancy. So this is my primary concern. I'll come to all the other ones in a minute, but My question is, were these public safety committee recommendations looked at? And if so, how come they're not in the report? If not, why not?
Okay, again, this is Paul with the traffic group. I am unaware of any recommendations by any earlier committee being shared with the traffic group, nor was that a task of mine. My task was to review existing intersections for sight distance, related to landscaping. So again, to directly answer your question, I was not provided any prior report by anyone, nor was I asked to review a safety study by any other group.
Yeah, I'll continue from there. And this is possibly on me for misunderstanding the council's decision. I had read the council's decision that the public safety came with recommendations for these intersections, but because they weren't a professional group, the council wanted to get a professional's opinion on those intersections. And so I had understood the assignment to have kind of fresh eyes, look at the intersections, make their own recommendations. Professional recommendations, and if I misunderstood,
But it's not too late to have, it's not too late to send over and have them look at
Yeah,
it.
this was about the thing. If I misunderstood, I'm happy
Yeah,
to have Mr. Dorr the
Yeah.
recommendations and
So
add it into.
That would be great.
I mean, that's why we have Q&A and
Yeah.
work sessions.
I
so
think
that's
that would be
fine.
great. And let me just, for the benefit of everyone, just now that the recommendations will go to you, Paul,
Yes.
let me just explain the background there. Because reading your report, I fully understand what you're saying is that from a vehicular point of view, there were no safety concerns due to the sightlines at those two intersections. There are sort of, and I don't dispute that. I think that, that's your professional judgment, and I'm not here to question it at all. I think there are two things that I want to add, and so when this Public Safety Committee memo comes to you, please keep these two things in mind. First is that the primary concern of the Public Safety Committee was not so much vehicular traffic, it was pedestrians. And so, if I suggest that one member of your team cross as a pedestrian and the other member of your team get in a car and tell me how soon you see the pedestrian before you're already in the intersection. I was almost hit last Friday. And I was only saved by the fact that the car was one of these modern things that has got the radar stuff on it and braked itself. This is on Warwick Lane and Cumberland. So I think if you could please look at from the sidewalks. The question is, the problem is you can't see you cannot see a pedestrian walking on the sidewalk approaching Warwick Lane or approaching Devon on those two roads. So that's one thing, if you could check. It's completely blind for pedestrians. I fully agree with you. You can pretty much see cars. Now, on the question of cars, we have an awkward issue here. Your report rightly points out that the professional standard is the intersection is safe when two stopped cars can see each other at certain feet. The problem, as we all know, is that nobody stops. Rolling through an intersection at 10 miles an hour or whatever is not the same as coming to a complete stop. And so again, I would like you, if it's possible, to just take that into account. I fully understand that there are engineering standards and so on and so forth, but the reality is not the engineering. The reality is that people drive through those intersections at reduced speed, not coming to a complete stop. So those are the 2 points I wanted to make regarding sort of this extra thing on the Public Safety Committee. Then my second comment had been on cost estimates. So maybe we can touch upon that and now move on to the next one.
Well, I can actually
Okay.
comment on that. Let me pull up the contract. Is the cost estimate was an exclusion. It was not included because I wanted to get since I knew the council might have questions and will need to come back for edits to report.
Okay.
There's no cost estimate at this time, but once the council is satisfied, I will ask Paul to do it.
Okay, thanks very much for the clarification.
But I think that, can I just add a little bit? So I wanted to ask this gentleman, so once we decide what we want to do and we bid it out, does your firm help us review would your firm help us review the proposals that come in from bidders?
Yes, I can make recommendations on, say, a signage company. And I can give you multiple, and then
Yeah.
you can get pricing and I can help you make a
So
decision.
that's the kind of, that's the
Sure.
kind of that you provide, because we don't necessarily have the expertise here to
Yes.
review the bid. Okay, good. So I think, doesn't that kind of help you understand?
Yes, I think that's very helpful. Thank you. The next question I had relates to the school operations. So again, it's very helpful to have your assessment that overall that the school operations are safe and that no major changes are required. You talk about the chain and painting yellow curb and one parking spot, which we can discuss separately. But one thing struck me is that you do say in one place in the report, and that's backed up by your traffic flow data, that existing signage is ignored by passenger vehicles. And if you look at your traffic flow data, you will find that people are in fact illegally turning on Warwick Lane, breaking the one-way flow of Warwick Lane not in ones and twos, but in double digits during that 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon. So my question really is isn't that a safety issue that we've got signage there that says in effect that this is a one-way street during the morning and evening pickup drop-off? That signage is being ignored by certain number of vehicles. If it is a safety issue, do you have any recommendations, or do we just leave it as it is? But it seems odd that we would have a restriction and then say it's not an issue because 10, 12 vehicles are doing it in the course of an hour, by the way. That's actually not insignificant.
Do you understand the psychology of Somerset?
I understand the psychology of Somerset, and I think that's why we have the traffic group here. I'm sure you've got psychologists on your.
Yeah, so it's not I mean, you clearly have the signs that are clearly displaying the message about the restrictions. It's not a design issue, it's an enforcement issue. We can add more signs and brighter and larger, but if they're going to violate, it's an enforcement issue and not a design or from my standpoint, a safety issue.
So, but wouldn't you recommend something like that periodically we have a police officer there and give tickets? That's the only way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't put the wording in the report, but that's kind of expected, I guess, from.
I think it's also the kind of thing where we can consult with our second district commander to find out what they recommend and that kind of thing.
So I think, that's just the general point I wanted to make, is that I think that we had actually, and even though the report doesn't say it explicitly, I think there is a safety issue here of vehicles essentially doing something that's very unsafe, taking right turns onto Warwick when it should be going the other direction. And so, yeah, if we can have a follow-up with our second district.
Well, another thing which we can ask the gentleman is, doesn't it also help when there is an education campaign? Because we know who most of the violators are. They're the parents of the kids. And so we need to work with the school to get them to start educating their parents that if they don't follow the rules, they're going to get a ticket.
I will say that all the field work, all the observations, I personally did school observations, signage, sight distance. I walked all the sidewalks many, many times throughout the 2-day period, just observing. And you are correct. It is parents of
Yeah.
students being dropped off, and you can see they look and they know what they're doing. They're good. They're going the wrong way.
They look
Um,
and see if there's a police officer and then they just go through. But that's why we have to work with this. We met with the PTA. And so what we need to do is find out what are the ways for the PTA and also we have to meet with the principal because he's sort of like in charge of everything. And he hasn't really been that easy I don't think he understands that really it's his problem more than it's our problem. Because it's his students
Yeah.
and it's his.
Right.
So I really appreciate your comments. So we know where to go, we know where to go next, Councilmember Khanna.
Yes, thanks. So if we can have maybe EJ follow up on that. On that. So my next point relates to the fact that I think you assessed the existing speed humps and speed bumps and I presume the rumble strips on Dorset and Cumberland. Could you clarify, because you said that the speed humps and speed bumps are all in good condition, with some minor cracking on the one on Devon and so on. But my understanding is that at least one of those on Dorset, between Dorset and Little Falls Parkway, is practically a non-existent speed bump. It's being quite significantly degraded.
Which
This is in front of the Springer's house. This is the only way I know how to.
It's a humplet, okay?
It's a humplet.
Where is it? It's on Dorset?
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
it's
it
the-
turns left from Surrey, it's the
Yeah,
first hump.
it's the first-
on
first
Dorset.
hump.
Yeah. And so my question is that does that mean that you do not recommend replacing or repairing that? Because I think our understanding was that the town was going to, and the residents immediately adjacent to that speed hump have actually been asking for it to be returned to its original height or whatever for a number of years now. And so I just want to understand, is it your recommendation that it doesn't need to? That it should or shouldn't? I mean, I'm not exactly, if you think it is fine, then what's the justification for repairing it?
Well, if EJ can provide me an exact location on that particular one, I'd be happy to take another look at it. The recommendation for not installing more speed humps or changing any of the locations, or in this case, whether it was a maintenance issue, that's all based upon the speed study results all being fairly very moderate speeds. So I'd be happy to take another look at that particular one and
That would be
double
great.
check.
That would be great.
So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that when the speed humps were originally installed all over town, there was not, no professionals were consulted. It was basically when people petition, when people on the streets petition, then they would put it somewhere. So it's possible, I don't know if the system of speed humps we have now is the most effective placement. But we didn't ask the consultant that, right?
Well, I did
Oh.
review, I'm sorry, I did review both mainline streets connecting the two major
Uh-huh.
roadways on the west and the east. Because of the stop controlled intersections and the many speed humps you have, I didn't make any recommendations based upon our speed study results. So I will say that the placement of those is very it's a good example of what I would do in the neighborhood. So whoever,
That's good to know.
yes.
Sometimes amateurs get it right.
Right, that's good to know.
So my final point. So yeah, so if you could have a look at that particular
Yes.
speed hump, and EJ can provide the location to you, and also look at the rumble strips on
Yes, at the
Dorset
intersection.
approaching Warwick, because both of those are degraded, and currently your report would suggest that there is no justification for repairing them, which sort of hasn't quite been the view of the public safety.
Well, that's,
people.
the rumble strips is an uncommon installation. And I'm not exactly sure, other than just to bring attention to the major intersection in the neighborhood. They're not something that typically gets recommended for traffic calming. So I guess I don't understand the logistics.
Well, that was a political decision.
Okay,
We'd have to review at the time how those, I mean, it was a 4-year time, right?
It was before
I
my
think it
time.
was when, what would happen in the old days is someone would hear from somebody like, oh, these things are really effective in my town and somewhere. And then a counselor would come to a meeting and say, oh, let's put rumble strips in. And there was no,
And so you
so
did.
that's interesting. They're just like
They're-
feel good. They're just like
Well,
feel
they're-
good things.
rumble strips are typically installed to bring drivers' attention to signage or some specific curve on a roadway. Having them that close to the intersection, in my mind, it's more of a distraction. What are these rumble strips telling me other than I'm already at the intersection?
So would you recommend that we remove them?
No, I mean, again, they're there and they are bringing drivers' attention, but I just don't know the background, why they were installed that close to the intersection. And it may just be the stop control that, we're waking up drivers to realize that they're at a crosswalk, 4-way stop intersection, where you have a lot of student crossings. So I'm okay with leaving them, and I didn't make any recommendations for any changes. So I'm okay with them.
And I think in general, I appreciate very much that your assessment basically shows that our existing traffic calming devices and stops have been pretty effective. Yes. They may not be popular, they may not be 100% what everybody wanted, but I think that the study shows that's very effective. My last question to you is this: you make a statement saying that you do not believe that cut through traffic is an issue on Dorset and Cumberland. Now, of course, when you say you don't believe, it means that you probably haven't done the kind of traffic survey that you would normally do to reach that conclusion. And so my question to you is, would there be some benefit to doing the necessary traffic survey to determine empirically whether cut-through traffic is an issue on Dorset and Cumberland?
If I just looking at the volumes, you have 120 in the evening peak hour going eastbound, and that's about 2 cars a minute. When you think about it, it's about 30 seconds if you spread them out over the 1 hour period. And just give you a little background. So pretty much every home will generate 10 new trips for the neighborhood. So if you take that many homes on each of those streets times 10, that's basically the trips that it would generate throughout the day. And that's DoorDash, Amazon, UPS, mail, visitors, family going to school. So I want you to know that I really looked at the traffic volumes for the cut through, and based upon the number of homes that you have within this road network, I really don't believe you have a large cut through. And also with the number of, and I think I worded it in the report, the number of stop signs and the number of speed humps and all of those things, rumble strips, it's not a pleasant drive down these streets. If the communities, if it's really your view that you do have a cut through, you're correct. We can do additional studies, but based upon these 2 days of traffic counts and speed, and this actually being taken place during the school session, I don't think you have a cut through traffic, but I'd be happy to assist in the future if you feel that way.
Thank you. No, thanks. That's very
That's
helpful to put in
fascinating.
context. Yeah, thanks.
All right, and Kabir, you've been very patient, so it's your turn.
Thank you again, Mr. Donald. Paul, thank you so much for the.
You're welcome.
the
Thank you.
study. I had two sets of questions. One was picking up on the last topic. It seemed like your assessment was based on volume of traffic. So you said traffic calming is working because I'm just looking at the flow. But part of, I think the challenge with traffic in our town is just the narrowness of the streets and some of the kind of, trying to maneuver.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if that figured in your assessment on Dorset. Because there, the challenge it seems in the morning hours is there are cars parked, there's a large bus, there's traffic flowing both ways. And so while there isn't a lot of volume, maneuvering through that has proven challenging for residents, especially when there are children walking to the bus and so on. And then the Cumberland deal, again, not a lot of volume, but it's a very, very right angled turn. There are blind spots because of the trees. And so again, it creates a bit of a kind of a jam and it creates a bit of high maneuverability. So I'm wondering if those factors figured in your kind of conclusion on traffic calming.
For sure. So anytime you have parking along a road network, especially on a narrow street, and I believe I put text in the report, that is in itself a traffic calming measure. Many times as I drove through the neighborhood, I had to pull over in an open space just to allow through movement cars.
Exactly.
So that in itself is actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And the same thing with sight distance. There's a lot of studies that say the more sight distance you have, cars are going to drive faster because they see further. They feel like they're in control and they can react to other vehicles. So the more sight distance you have, the cars are going to, blow through the intersection if they can surely see that another car is not going to stop or is going to stop or not even present. Those two things, were a big part of my recommendation for no additional things. And again, the cut through traffic not being an issue.
Okay, I appreciate that. Then the other question I had was on the signage. You mentioned, as well, we are well aware of that. And as EJ mentioned in his report, this is something that's on our to-do list. But one thing that struck me, you look at the existing signs and they're sort of either faded or dirty and you kind of recommended sprucing them up. Did you draw any additional conclusions such as do the signs need to be indeed different? Bigger,
Yes.
brighter? And do we need new signs, places that we did not have signs that could improve the overall flow of traffic?
Yeah, so there was a placement of one sign at the dead end at the end of Cumberland Avenue on the west end. I really feel that needs to be there for anyone who has not traveled westbound and realize that they need to make the left on a Devon lane. And again, as I do my sign inventory, and again, you're very fortunate. I am the one who did all the field work here. I had a lot of people on vacation, so I was actually out in the field doing these things myself. Every sign, I have inventory of every sign in your entire community, from everyone that was good, that didn't need any recommendation, to all the ones I listed in the report that really should be replaced over as time provides. Again, your traffic calming is great, and it does keep people out of your neighborhood. It does keep your speed slow, and you have a sufficient amount of signs to restrict parking, to really hammer down the four-way stops and the three-way stops. I don't have any recommendations on new signs, or I would have put them in there. And concerning the school operations, you have a lot of signs. It's difficult to even install more signs because there's so many signs just pertaining to the one-way school operations.
So right now, all of our signs are in our code, which we need to change and put it in regulations. But some of those school signs are unauthorized. And some of them were put there during COVID. I think that EJ should give you the data on what signs are legal, just so you'll know.
Okay,
But some of those school signs definitely need to be taken down. And I'm not sure that we need the sign, we were very proud years ago that we put these signs up that said, use your cell phone while you're driving, but forget that now. I mean, that's like irrelevant now, right?
I think if it's in good shape, I wouldn't remove it because parents should be reminded that
Okay.
they should be off the phones. I mean, I've watched a lot of school operations over the years.
Okay.
So to
Good
be
to know.
clear on the sign question, you do not see a need for any additional signs and, other than that one you mentioned.
Correct.
Almost all of your recommendations are clean the existing signs and
Well-
or replace them as is that right?
Correct. So signs should be reflective. The message should have good contrast against the back, and some of the signs may be able to just be clean versus replaced, and that's something that you can determine. I didn't take a rag to I didn't take a rag to the sign to determine if it could be
Understood.
saved. Now, again, other than the dead end street at the west end of Cumberland Avenue, I don't believe there's any recommendations from my standpoint.
Okay, thank you so much.
Shannon? Any questions?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
All right,
I had a question.
and Debbie, I'll go back to you now. Okay.
I want to piggyback off something you said, Paul. You said that it's not a pleasant drive through town. With that in mind, here's my question. When you're traveling on Dorset towards Little Falls and you get to the school intersection, we have those bumps that are like peaks. And I'm wondering if you have any information on how that is with people with bad backs. And I'm wondering if there's
Sure.
been any complaints like that. And I only speak from personal experience here.
Sure. So Montgomery County has, they have details on their website for the proper speed hump. They are typically 12 feet in width, which all of yours are pretty much that size. And they have a 3-inch height at the center. What you have there is shopping center speed bumps. Again, from my standpoint of safety, they work well because any resident or anyone who cuts through there on a daily basis, they know they're there, they're going to slow down. But I believe from a county standards, they are probably too abrupt because again, the county has standards of the 12-foot, again, the ones that you have throughout the neighborhood. So I don't want to say they should be removed, but
Next time you're in town,
yes,
when you get to the school intersection, instead of turning right to go to the school, turn left.
okay,
Because that's what's a killer. If you're just going straight, yeah, it's more bumpy.
right,
But
it's
if you're
awkward.
turning left, I mean, my car rocks, and I have 2 cars. I have a smaller one and a bigger one, and they all rock. And it is hard on your back, and I'm not the oldest person in town, but I'm on my way. And maybe you haven't heard anything, but every time I go over it, I moan. I go, oh God, here I go again. So I just wondered, so thank you, but I think
Sure.
we. fix those
I
things.
will take another look at that when I go down to check the one speed hump that's maybe it's depressed, it's improper. So I'll take another look at that too.
Thank you.
All right, I had a couple of quick points myself. One is that you brought up actually in a couple of places in the report that you observed parents dropping off kids at school, parking correctly on the left side, but then letting their kids out the right side, which is into traffic, and that is disturbing. Do you want to say any more on that at this point?
I will say that the one-way operation, I I visit a lot of areas where they have two-way school drop off. And the first thing that we recommend is one way where students are allowed to drop off onto the school side, so they're adjacent to the curb. I think that's probably just an educational thing with the school when you, if in fact you can get time with the principal to, you know, I could even prepare a document, you know, just an image that says, if you're going to drop off curbside. It's very unusual for schools to not allow parents to use the service drive. And
Yeah.
I understand why, because you need it for the school buses. And I think that's why their passenger cars and parents aren't allowed in the school drop-off area. But most school drop-off areas are put in order to allow parents to drop off. But for some reason, you know, you have students there that will not let parents into that service drop.
Well, this is one of the smallest school sites in the county, and it's
Okay.
old, and so they don't build, the county doesn't build schools in towns anymore.
Okay.
They only build them on highways where there's on big roads where there's lots of room. So that's the reason,
Okay.
I guess.
The other point is a transitional point. At the intersection of Surrey and Cumberland, there is a crosswalk which has steps going down on it, and it is not,
Yeah, it's not
Fine.
ADA.
yeah, right. I believe your solution is to lower the sidewalk and remove the steps. It's transitional because Dewberry also made the same point. Their solution, interestingly, was to raise the road.
It's a little more expensive.
Right. So anyway, I'm just saying that.
Sorry, Dewberry, if they're on.
All right.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Exactly. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask a question for amongst us?
Yeah.
Just to understand process. So what do we need to do to make these things happen that EJ has said he will do? Do we as a council have to ask him, order him? Not, or will it happen now?
Well, we.
So now we said very specific on the signs.
You all can decide to ask him to get bids on things.
Well, right, but we need to do that at council meeting, right?
Yes. So it's-
No, you can ask him now to get bids.
Well, right now, my to-do list for this discussion, and feel free to add anything to it, is to send the memos from the Public Safety Committee
Right.
to Paul and work with him, so he can look over them, he can review them, comment on them, to work with Paul to get price estimates for the various work being proposed. Look at the speed humps on the specific speed hump in front of the Springer home and the speed humps on at the main Dorset intersection to review the rumble strips and work with Paul to update the report as needed and then bring back to the council.
But now's the time, at a work session is when you can ask the staff.
Yeah, but if you want further, yeah, you can go ahead and.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are some things that we want, obviously, the staff to consult the principal of the school on a couple of different things.
Yeah.
And so you
I
should
mean,
do
to
that.
me, the most specific thing that we clearly have a recommendation from the traffic group, and which has been identified many, many times over, is to replace, to clean, to improve the quality of the signs in the town. And so what I'm asking is, what do you need from us today for this to happen?
Well,
Well,
before you.
Just to be clear,
Just
this
short-
was hearing into council going out.
Well,
there.
we've already, so, you know, you're the newest person on the council, but this has been something that's been on the agenda
Yes.
for a couple of years, and now we're getting to the point where we're ready to do that. But we were waiting to get all this information, but yes, many of the signs are dirty, we don't have a program for cleaning them. Many of them, but EJ is gonna put all this in place.
So do you need a
This is-
council decision to do this?
No, because it was budgeted,
Yeah.
it was part of the budget,
Great.
and so.
So excellent. So
But
we
you
don't
can
need to,
also-
we don't need to
No.
come back to another council meeting to have a
No.
conversation.
It's
But I do
all
want to
under-
ask one thing.
May I
The-
just
the
say
traffic-
one thing,
yeah.
though, Rohit, building on what the mayor said, the reason we were waiting for this report is just the question I asked. Is that we didn't know whether we need new signage,
Right,
or we need signage of a certain kind.
Right.
We thought it would be good to do it all at once.
Right.
So that brings me to the point is, I think the recommendations on signage is still only restricted to the study area. I don't believe you looked at the signs for all the streets of the town. Is that correct?
I think he said. He said.
Correct. That's correct. Dorset, Cumberland, and all the north-south streets, correct.
Yeah, but I think we have a sign, don't we have a sign saying something?
Yes.
We have
Well,
Sabra
it's
and
not
Sabra
saying somebody
Wang and
else.
Fairs and Peters and so on and so on. I mean, we've had peers that done a lot. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that the replacing and cleaning of signs will be town-wide. It won't be just these 6 blocks that is in the group.
Yeah.
But now, here's the thing. I don't know whether you now need to have the traffic group look at all the signs in the rest of the town to see whether they're up to the standards that, because
I would
great,
prefer
the
that.
great thing about the traffic group report is they have identified those that don't meet this and don't meet that. And Sabra Wang's study was many, many years ago. Fairs and Peers was a long, long time ago. I wish we had done all of this when they did the report, but that's water under the bridge. But I would ask if we could request the traffic group to do a full survey of every sign in the town for the rest of the town,
Mhm.
so that we have a plan, and that way you can then implement based on the budget you have. And
I think
unless you
you-
really need for us to look at it again, I
Tiny
hope,
caveat.
I hope-
Yeah,
tiny
but I think we
caveat.
have it in the budget, right? We have it in the budget.
Well, tiny caveat is to start working on these recommendations.
yes,
Even as
I
we
think
get
that
those
makes
in,
sense.
yeah,
Obviously,
so-
there's no point waiting for the full town to be done to get started already on these.
Mhm.
And I think so this whole question of, how, should the stop signs be more reflective and the height and so on, I think that it'd be great if the traffic give you a set of guidelines for your procurement and start with these blocks, and then they can do the rest of the town. And then I hope that you can do the rest of the town without us having to look at another set of recommendations, unless you think there are some policy issues like new signs or chain signs or whatever. That's of
Well,
course.
the town will probably have to consider the contract.
It depends on the cost.
It's a cost.
So do we agree that we want the traffic group to do a thorough review of all the signs in town then?
100%.
Shannon?
And Paul is now familiar with the town, so he's excited to walk the rest of the town.
Shannon, are you on board with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. All right, so can we let Paul go? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
There was one other issue that maybe we should vote on, which is that they are recommending that we remove a parking spot on Cumberland near the Warwick intersection. And I think we need to vote on that.
Well, you can't vote on
That would need to be. an
That,
actual
that's
vote.
sweet, that's sweet.
So that has to go to council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
we
we-
introduced.
Because it's, no parking zones are specifically outlined.
So do 3 of you want Ron to draft that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I can send you the details wrong.
Okay, all right, so we'll move on to the Dewberry reports, and there are 2 of them, and we'll do the sidewalk safety and the ADA/ProWag accessibility report.
And Kevin Matt, an engineer from Dewberry, is on the Zoom.
And EJ, do you want to summarize it, or should we leave it to Kevin to summarize it?
I can summarize it, and then if Kevin wants to add anything, he feels is prudent, then we can do so. So the first document, the ADA ProWag accessibility improvements can just be kind of thought of as an initial, this is kind of what the town wants. It was kind of made through working with Dewberry, myself, the pedestrian safety working group, the public safety committee. And then the second document kind of builds on the first and actually is like, okay, here's the action steps to accomplish all this. So they looked at kind of a bunch of different things, but I won't go through all the numbers, but town right away, the various streets, where sidewalks are, where they are, conditions of the sidewalk, not just in terms of like the surface level of like the sidewalk looks good, but actually like, is this accessible? Does this meet all the requirements? They touch on the impact of our trees, on how most of the town still doesn't have curbs and gutters, and how there's still intersections that haven't been made fully accessible. And so for the actual action plan basically for it that they're proposing, is that begin by, since this would all come together to form kind of a major infrastructure change in the town, really working on engaging the community with it to make sure everybody in the town is kind of aware of what is happening, and is kind of generally on board with it, kind of getting their thoughts, and so the town's on basically the same page. And then scoping it, they kind of broke it into kind of for 3 immediate phases, and these phases came about in discussions between DuBarry and myself, Pedestrian Safety Working Group, and the Public Safety Committee. First phase being that the same steps mentioned by the traffic group. The second being that on Little Cumberland, there's no sidewalk connecting Little Cumberland and Deal. And then the terminus of the Essex sidewalk is uncharacteristically steep. And then kind of following those immediate things is surveying different areas of town, so we can modernize the curbs and gutters, look at potential sidewalk expansion, like what would potential sidewalk expansion really entail, how it could be done, and then potentially other improvements could also occur. So that's kind of, and this is something that would kind of be, work would happen, the council would have like a chance to review, so that we're kind of making sure that everything's moving along if this was to occur, but also there's plenty of oversight and everybody kind of is aware of what's happening. So that's kind of the short description. I'm happy to add anything, or if Kevin wants to add anything. Happy to.
Thanks. And would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Kevin Mack, landscape architect with DuBarry.
All right, thank you. Anything to add to EJ?
You pretty much covered it. I think it's a very broad recommendations because there's a lot of nuance and variables throughout that we kind of, you almost have to end up looking at it in every 100-foot section, because there's such a variety in the condition of the cross section of the street relative to the elevation of the sidewalks and what the adjacent property owners have built within the right of way up to the sidewalk, and how best to make it work to the optimal degree is really what we feel is the appropriate scope on it.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start with Rohit because I think probably you've got more questions than anybody, so why don't you go?
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin. Thanks very much. So I think clearly we have a pretty challenging landscape here, physically and metaphorically speaking. I think that I want to try to understand a bit better each of the phases.
Okay.
And the costing that goes with it, and then
Sure.
So if I understand correctly, basically, in phase one,
Mhm.
you are proposing to redo the entire sidewalk from Warwick Place to Surrey Street on Cumberland. Is that correct? The entire,
Yes,
the whole stretch.
yeah. There's very little of that existing sidewalk that meets the ADA and ProAg codes for slope, which is very common. I see that on just about every sidewalk that's more than 30 years old. When they settle over time, it's very easy for them to tip over that 2% cross slope, and that's the one that is the main issue with that. I measured several locations briefly, and I was coming up with 3.5, 4% cross slopes, as well as the breaks that are in between slab sections here and there. That means that the running slope and there a lot of places are in violation of the 3/8 inch vertical separation.
And the same thing you're proposing to do the entire stretch from Dorset on Deal and then from Deal to Wisconsin Avenue, right? So basically,
Yes.
basically 3 entire blocks, 1 block on
Yes.
Cumberland and then 2 blocks on Deal.
Yes.
And Little Cumberland. And for the reasons that you've outlined.
Mhm.
So the question I have is whether, and if I understand correctly, the cost estimates that you provided are the costs only for your services. It does not include
Yes.
cost of the civil works.
Correct. That these are just the design costs.
Right. So in other words, it's $518,000 plus, and I don't know enough about the construction business to know whether this is double that 500,000 or 10 times that 500,000. I think it is fair to say that that I think all the assessments you've made are completely consistent with I think what many of us believe, which is that these sidewalks have these problems on these blocks, etc. I think it's also fair to say that there's probably a bit of sticker shock on what it will cost.
Yes.
Everyone will have to break it down over not years, but maybe decades. But that's why I want to come to a slightly different approach.
Okay. Sure.
Which is to make this a bit more bite-sized and accept certain trade-offs in the town. And that is to go back a little bit to your first report. And in that report, you had some very specific recommendations that I think are more bite-sized. And I would actually prefer to prioritize those. So I'll be specific here. There's a recommendation number 3, street curbs should be reconstructed to restore the 6-inch height. So what I would like to propose is that, can we have an estimate from you for restoring the street curbs throughout the town? Secondly, curb ramps compliant with ProBag at every intersection, including compliant detectable warning surfaces at each ramp, recommendation number 4. Could we do that throughout the town? Where there is an unsafe drop-off adjacent to the sidewalk, I think your recommendation 2, the ground should be regraded to provide a minimum of 6 inches of level shoulder adjacent to the sidewalk and then slope to the top of the curb. I think this is something that is of concern to many, many residents, and I think we should prioritize that. I think we've already done the tripping hazards on many parts of the town, which EJ presented at the beginning, so I'll skip that. And then there are, of course, the 3 more challenging immediate things. It's that intersection of Cumberland and Surrey, which where the sidewalk and or the street needs to be reconstructed. I think that
Right.
my question to you is, could we please have an estimate from you just for that and not the entire block on Cumberland going all the way to Warwick?
Sure. Yeah.
And then similarly, I mean, very similar to what you've done on Essex Avenue, where you've basically given us an estimate of how much it would cost to engineer that slope of that sidewalk at 4818 Essex. And then similarly, at the intersection of Cumberland and Deal near here, where the two sidewalks are not connected, if you could just give us an engineering study for that intersection and not the entire block from Deal to Wisconsin and from along Deal to Dorset. So to me, I think that these are immediate actions that are needed in the town. I fully accept the fact that we have a lot of problems on many sidewalks. And I think that your report does a fantastic job of helping us develop a 10-year plan, 10-year master plan for eventually solving all the problems that you have identified and that you have given us estimates for. But my request would be to come up with a phase one that focuses on these 6 or 7 immediate things, which I think will be more bite-sized, will be done quicker, will not in fact require a whole lot, will not in fact require much community consultation, except you may have to speak to obviously the residents at.
Okay, so that needs to be agreed to.
So
by
that is
majority.
one.
So
So
that needs
just,
to be agreed to by a majority.
yes, of course. So
So
that is
do you
one
all agree?
proposal on the table.
Do you all agree to get
Why
this
don't we do the
information?
Q&A?
Yeah, let's do the round.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I think where definitely we need a community consultation, a charrette of some kind, is on the other big item, which is the extension of the sidewalk on Cumberland from past Surrey all the way to Deal. And I think you've given us an estimate on that, but I think what I would like to propose is that we have a charrette sometime in September when everyone is back from the holidays, in which you present some design options and some alternatives, trade-offs, cost estimates of going down north side, south side. And then because this definitely needs to have community buy-in of that entire block. I think there are many residents who are for it. There are some residents who have concerns, especially on the north side. But I think that if you could make a presentation here, we invite the residents, then I think that to me is the second thing I would like to propose, is to have this community consultation event in September. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ruth. Kabir?
That's what
I had thoughts along similar lines. I thought the first report was great. And Kevin, thank you so much for your work.
Mhm.
And for your support of the town, and thank you, EJ, for driving this important work. And I thought it was big, in part, the conclusions of the PROAG study actually are very consistent with widely held view, and we observe the sidewalks and the streets in the town and the gutters. And so it was great to get that from your expert eyes and from your team. And I kind of struggled then with the second report, actually, because why did we end up with those priorities? It was a little fuzzy to me. And why those specific areas? So similar to Rohit's reaction. And so that was the question I had. What was the process that led to just those areas versus kind of what felt organic from first report to start mapping out priorities? I didn't have a sense of how long it would take, but then just starting mapping out the priorities from the first report. So it'd be good to get a read from you, EJ and Kevin, sort of what drove the second report and the specific locations we identified and specific, and partly I'm asking not to be accusatory in any way, but I'm curious whether that was sort of, that's where there are truly the high priority structure that's where we are most out of whack with ProAg and ETA, and that's what you were thinking?
Mhm.
Or is there something else going on there? It would be good to understand, that.
Yes, so I'll start, and if Kevin wants to add anything, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So those kind of three areas, the Surrey Stairs, the Deal Cumberland connection, and the terminus of that sidewalk were decided because in the drafting of the first report, part of that drafting included a walkabout of the town with myself, Kevin, and another DeBerry employee and members of the pedestrian safety working group, the public safety committee. And those three areas were really kind of, and Councilmember Kano. And those three areas were really kind of shown to DeBerry as areas that a lot of residents have talked about to the town. Have kind of, it was areas that the public safety committee and pedestrian safety working group has discussed. And so those three areas were kind of given a lot of weight when it came to deciding the initial locations, just because of the amount of discussion around them.
I see, okay, and Kevin, what was your assessment of that? I mean, if you were left to your own devices, to prioritize, what priorities would be?
Basically that was what we also felt were the more obvious priority areas. One thing I would say, the changing the curbs and the slope of the tree strip between the sidewalk and the curb. One thing I would like to caution is that if we do those elements independent of any work on the sidewalk, especially when the sidewalk's going to be widened from 4 feet to 6 feet, there's a good amount of that work that is in jeopardy of having to be removed and replaced again at a later date.
No, I agree.
And we were trying to avoid that and just doing a whole cross section of the street for X length.
Yeah, I think what I would also benefit from a bit more of a holistic, plan. Because it's hard for me to assess from your first report to the second report, what else should we prioritize? It's just a little harder for me to see, and this feedback from EJ makes me think it seems like it's an aggregate view of what residents are talking about, and I rather have the expert view as a start, because our job is actually to represent the aggregate view of what the residents are talking about. So I rather benefit from the expert view before we do that. So I'm kind of leaning towards where Rohit was going, is to give a bit more of taking the first report and giving us a bit more of a sense of what each of those very, like the curb and gutter point that you make in your report is a very important point. And so what's our plan to tackle that is unclear to me, because I read that and then I read the second report, which is like, hey, we're gonna do this whole section this way. So I'm wondering, how we go about tackling those issues. Am I making sense? Or are you saying that is exactly what we thought of, and the way to go about it is to do these sections that we prioritize?
Yes, that's what our experience has been, that if you look at just a single element in a street section, especially one that is so limited as these and has so many exterior constraints, namely the retaining walls that are right up against the sidewalks, even though the right of way goes another 12 to 14 feet beyond the sidewalk, the town has grown over the last 100+ years to have these private retaining walls in the right of way. And we were looking at solutions that would have the minimal impact to those existing retaining walls and infrastructure that lie outside of the sidewalk area, because that's going to really start costing. Anytime you touch a retaining wall, it just adds dollar signs. So having said that, that's one constraint with lowering the sidewalk versus other things is how do you do that? At the same time, a lot of places, when you widen the sidewalk, now you've taken an existing cross slope of the planting area from, say, a nice gentle 15 to 20%, and you've taken out a third of that area, but you still have the same amount of vertical rise. Now it's a 3-to-1 slope, which is the maximum generally used. And replacing the curbs and raising those up, they definitely will help in just about every case. Because I don't think I saw any places where the sidewalks were low. It's pretty much, they're always either at a fairly good elevation or they're too high. The only place would be the front 2 blocks of Cumberland coming off of Wisconsin, where those yards are flat also. But we have things that we can do for that without disrupting that. And we don't want to change the drainage patterns either and cause ponding someplace accidentally. And that's why we were thinking that it made more sense to us to work the full section of the street for X number of hundreds of feet per unit, rather than doing individual pieces of elements within it. It just,
Okay.
I run into problems with that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I guess the related question I had is, why that street? Why not Essex, a different section of Essex, a different section of Baldstone, a different section of Greystone?
We were under the understanding that the proximity to the school had a priority over everything else.
Okay. Over how dated it is and how degraded it is?
Yes. Because
Okay.
we got to pick some place to start, and it seemed like that was a really good place that had a concentration of pedestrians and especially of children. And we all know that children don't pay attention to where they're going. So it seemed like that was the most logical place to really start working.
But I also,
Children are walking all over town to all sections of the town. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily, so the prioritization is a little fuzzy to me from the overarching report.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to comment on that.
All right.
And so I'm struggling with that, but I appreciate the overall.
And I would say that these are not hard and fast phases. I mean, that's the way we organized them. If
I appreciate.
if you feel that there's one that should done first, then it really doesn't.
No, I actually don't want to use the phrase "I feel," is what I'm saying. I want to go by where the state is and what is the right way to go about it. So that your sense that we should do a street 100 feet back, that I appreciate that. Because you're saying all of those elements can be worked on 100 feet at a time, roughly. So that makes sense to me. Then the natural question is which streets and why?
Right.
And where should we start specifically in terms of the overall assessment of the quality of things? And then I'm not clear whether we have the right priorities. So we might. I'm not saying I have necessarily an alternate. I just don't know whether we have the right priorities.
Right. And I think we feel that the best bang for your buck is where you want to start. And if we don't think, it turns out that we don't think that the Cumberland along the school gives you that, then yeah, let's look at one of the other sections of town and go with that.
Yeah, but I would appreciate guidance from Dewberry on kind of what makes sense from a structural and engineering perspective.
Okay.
What's politically sensible, so I want to understand that first. So anyway, we can move on.
All right, thank you. Shannon, do you have any comments on the report? Questions?
No, I mean, I think that it's really expensive and, and, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, I think that it is smart to prioritize where the school is and where the people are walking in our neighborhood. And try to make some basic changes kind of for that. But, you know, other than that, I don't have any specific questions.
All right, thank you. And Debbie?
I want to jump to the cost of all this. I'm trying to understand this.
Okay.
Let's just say money was no object. What do you think it would cost us to do the whole town? Do everything you're suggesting? Now, I'm not saying, you know, in a real world, we would do that anyway, but what do you think? Is this millions of dollars?
Yeah, honestly, yes.
Okay, and if we take apart, let's just say, and just do the school part, you know, walking up to Cumberland, you know, what does that little piece cost? Just, I'm not gonna hold you to any of this, just give me you know,
Yeah, I wish my other colleague was here because he deals with the construction part of it much more than I do. Honestly, I really don't know what.
okay, that's okay, let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
So-
yes, price estimating is not my forte.
Okay, but you did say, not unless I heard this wrong, that this project is a $500,000 price tag from you guys, am I right? And is that for the whole picture, or is that just for the, oh, that would break down into pieces then and be less?
Yeah, it would break down by phase.
Okay, we are talking about $500,000 just from you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, lose my train of thought here. So do you actually, is part of what your company does doing some of the work as well? Or we bid that out to somebody else?
We would do the project management portion of it
Okay,
and bid it out and help the town bid out for the
So it's-
actual construction companies to do the work.
so now that we have this report, and once we prioritize everything, there's a whole other subjects for probably a lot of talk, but
Mhm.
your job then is project management, and that's the $500,000. Am I correct?
Well, the 500,000 is that's actually to design and get the permits for the work.
It's not your project management then.
It's
I,
all inclusive.
It's all
It's
inclusive.
the project management,
Okay.
getting all the permits, doing any surveying, engineering and planning.
Okay, that, I was just trying to understand what the
Everything but
economics,
the actual,
I was trying to understand what the
Yeah.
economics are. Okay, I think that's all my
and,
economic
and
questions.
this would be over a course of years.
Right, I
Yeah.
get,
So in
yeah,
flux.
we set it up so that it can be. We were trying to be mindful that it's a big ticket, and we are, as the design, we're a 7 to 10% of the overall
well,
generally. So yeah, nobody can swallow that amount at once, and so we picked an amount that we thought was a good starting place. And if obviously the next thing we want to do is we want to go in and do some cost estimates on what the actual construction is going to be for a particular section.
and over the years, if we do
And
this over
over
the
the
years, it
year,
will
and
change.
get a sense of what that actual dollar amount for the finished product will be. And we can look then at how maybe we go back and break it into more sections.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's very easily done because it's basically the overall cost part of the construction really doesn't matter about the details of what elevation the sidewalk is and whatnot like that. It's the cost of the concrete.
Okay.
And we can certainly work with the town to make the most manageable and still efficient use
Okay, I
of
just
money.
wanted to understand what this all gonna possibly cost.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a couple of points. On the field survey, on Cumberland. I have to say Cumberland looks to me like a very challenging street. You probably have that sense yourself, with the steep hill in the middle of it, which trying to extend a sidewalk into that is a challenge. But there's another challenge there, which is the owners of the homes. And they're probably going to be upset, I think, is the reaction. I don't know. They don't think they'll necessarily appreciate this bigger sidewalk as much as the smaller yard they're going to get out of it, is what it boils down to. Have you had experience in other communities like this? How has it gone if you've had that kind of experience?
Yes, and generally it takes a lot of negotiation with the property owners, because it's been my experience over the years that most property owners, no matter where, it's funny that they think that they own everything up to the back of the curb, which is almost never correct. These are all 50-foot rights of way. So it's about 14 feet behind the sidewalk is actually the limit of the right of way. And there's a lot of private investment in these landscapes, and especially the retaining walls, that our solutions are very mindful of that. And we're going to try to figure out how to serve everybody with the least amount of heartburn.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go tear those retaining walls down.
Yeah.
But and we can work around it. You can lower the sidewalk adjacent to a retaining wall, but you've got to study how deep the retaining wall was actually built, what's it sitting on, and then we have to probably end up doing an undercut and doing a support underneath of it. That gets expensive. But there's a variety of solutions that are available to us, and that will be looked at each case, and that's why we're kind of looking at it, that it's almost every lot frontage is unique as you go around the town.
Yeah, but I mean, they're unique on Cumberland Avenue as you walk down the street. I mean, they're
Yes.
very different.
Yes.
So, all right. I mean, you can understand the feeling of fellow council members, which is that let's do something that the residents appreciate first, which
Yes.
is, at the 3 projects that EJ has mentioned, before
Okay.
we tackle something that's where we're going to get problems and questions coming from the residents. That's really the framework, I think, that we're working with. Not that we shouldn't do that, we should do it, but let's prioritize, get some benefits to the town quickly before we
Yes.
move to the more complicated.
Yeah. Oh, it's my experience. Generally, you get a lot of pushback as soon as somebody says anything about let's change something.
Right.
And then once you make those first changes and people go, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And look at what the benefit is, then seeing is believing.
Right.
Because-
Okay, thank you. Do we need a second round of questions? Anybody?
So can I just ask, just for me to clarify where I am on this? I have something in my head, which is what I call my 3+3+1 formula. There are 3 things that are universally problematic throughout the town,
Okay.
right? That's the curb and gutter problem, curb ramp problem, and the drop-offs adjacent to the sidewalks. This is a problem throughout the town. And I think, we walked them all, we showed them to you, and gave you some samples of where, and so my preference is that we prioritize solving a problem that is universal. It's on almost every block in the town.
Mhm.
Pedestrian Safety Working Group, Public Safety Committee, all have repeatedly identified these issues. And so that's my plea, is to deal with the 3, what I call town-wide problems. Then I have my 3+3, then I have what I call the 3 ADA hotspots. right? These are where clearly there are problems in the sense that as a matter of equity and inclusion, we have a problem. And that is, if you are going on the sidewalk on Little Cumberland onto Deal, sidewalk disappears. There's the steps problem that both Dewberry and the traffic group have identified at the intersection of Surrey and Cumberland. And then there is that incredible slope on Essex, which is already. So to me, solving these three, what I call ADA hotspots, should also be a priority. Again, the Public Safety Committee and the Pedestrian Safety Working Group have repeatedly identified these as top priorities. So this is the 3+3. And then there's the +1, which I fully accept is a complicated issue, and that is the question of extension of the sidewalk on Cumberland to Deal. And at that, I think, requires an intermediate step, which is we need to have a community consultation process. But we can't have that. You know, we keep having this thing, or people are going to oppose it. People are going to have difficulty with it. But really, we cannot have this conversation unless first there are some design options, unless professionals like you come and facilitate a charrette that helps build community consensus. And so my request is not that we already go ahead and give the green light to do it, but I would like us as a council to give the green light to have some options, some drawings that you can show to the neighbors, to the homeowners there, and we can start the conversation. And if at that charrette we find that, you know, World War III is broken out, and you can say, okay, we're done. But let us at least have the conversation. Let's at least talk. Many residents on Cumberland have written to us asking us to do it. So I know there's a vocal minority that's going to oppose it. We have to look at the options, and the only way to do it is visually to see and to have professionals give us some engineering drawings and things like that. This is my 3+3+1 formula, which is different from the idea, which I fully respect what you said, which is to do entire stretches of blocks, because that's probably from an engineering point of view, the most rational thing to do. And so my only question to you is my 3+3+1 outrageous from an engineering point of view, or is it acceptable from an engineering point of view?
No, it's not outrageous. No, I think it's doable.
But it's up to the five of you to decide.
Yes.
Could you just re-express your concern that if we do some of that work, it may have to be redone if the sidewalks are subsequently widened?
Yes, it's just when you it's like herding cats. When you fix one problem, then two more crop up. And if you're trying to fix everything, when you're talking the grades that are generally found in the areas that are most problematic, there's not a lot of room for the solutions in there. And we will certainly do our best on the design to bear that in mind, that we want to not have to redo it in the future. But in some cases,
just for me to touch upon the future thing, I mean, I think that it's highly unlikely that this town is going to have a lot of budget to come back and do a whole lot of sidewalks in the future. I think we've got some funding now through the ARP that allows us to do certain things. And I think this question of whether we'll have to redo things in the future goes back to, I think, another point, which is it should be part of a long-term plan. When we come back to these things, it's going to be years from now. And it's not like, oh, we're going to do this, and 2 years from now, we're going to have to redo it. It's most likely when we redo it, it's going to be 10 years from now. Because I don't see the town having the budget to be doing this much infrastructure work every year over the next few years.
Okay. Yeah, and so that certainly lessens the concern of any potential redos, because once you're getting out 10 years into the future, that's when you need to start looking at what needs to be fixed again.
Right. That's exactly my point. Thanks.
All right, do we have any more questions of Kevin? All right, thank you, Kevin,
Sure. I appreciate it.
for coming.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks very much. Thanks also to Anthony and the others on the team.
All right, so how do we want to proceed on this one? Do you want to repeat the 3+3+1 plan and see whether people agree with it?
So yes, my proposal is that we request Dewberry to provide us a submission for 3 recommendations in their first report, which is street curbs should be reconstructed to restore the 6-inch height, providing an integral curb and gutter equivalent. Curb ramps, second, curb ramps compliant with PROWAG at every intersection, including compliant detectable warning surfaces at each ramp. And third, where there's an unsafe drop-off adjacent to the sidewalk, that the ground is regraded to provide a minimum of 6 inches of level shoulder adjacent to the sidewalk. That these 3 immediate tasks, Dewberry be asked to provide us with the submission as to how much it would cost, and so that we can proceed with that. And then third, then the other 3 are the 3 hotspots, which is that Dewberry, they've already provided us the amount for the western terminus of Essex Avenue sidewalk at 4818, but if they could do the same for the intersection of Cumberland and Deal and the intersection of Cumberland and Surrey. That these 2 intersections also, just the hotspots, not the 100 feet or 200 feet in each direction. And so just like Essex Avenue, they've identified the hotspot and they're fixing the recommended thing there. Do it for the other 2 as well. If they would come back with proposals for these 3+3, and then provide us with an estimate of what it would cost to run a community consultation forum for the extension of the sidewalk on Cumberland. They come back with a proposal on what kind of drawings, what kind of options that they would put on the table for the community. And those are my suggestions for the 3+3+1.
All right, so what do other people think of those suggestions?
I like the idea of getting more information. I mean, I'm in favor of that, so if they are able to provide some additional input to us along the lines of what we're suggesting, I think that would be useful, only because I think it would be good to have another cut at this as a group. Talk about this.
Are you talking about cost estimates or actual design plans for?
No, I think he was asking for the costs.
Yeah, I think that's right,
Yeah.
because I think if you look at the second report, there are no cost estimates for the first 3 items on my list. And
Yeah.
for 2 out of the 3 items on my +3, it's only for the Essex. For Cumberland and Deal and Cumberland and Surrey, it's a much more expansive submission from them. So I would like a submission from them just for those 2
hotspots.
hotspots.
Yeah, so I think that would be useful. Then we have more cost figures to look at, and then we may have to kind of put this puzzle together, is what I'm realizing. Then we can look at it and decide, do we want to do this section, do we want to do it differently? I also want us to just not lose sight of the fact that the 307, the 300,000 figure is for all the survey mapping for all the streets. That's the total of all the streets. So it's not for those 3 pieces.
Right.
Because, so we already have a phased possibility here, but it would be good to get these additional costs, and it'd be good to spend one more cycle as a group.
Do you think we should begin though, let's say in the fall sometime, and have a town meeting where we just begin to lay it out, so it's not like a shock, like, oh, by the way, we're gonna pick from these 3 things, instead of, this is what we've been studying, we have these studies, here's what we've learned a lot, we bring in these guys to talk about it, and say, our next step is to figure out what we can afford and where we should begin, kind of thing, and we'd love to hear what you think.
I'm in favor of
And
that.
by the way, you're gonna lose some of your grass,
No,
I want to be very clear that I really think we need to separate out this, you can lose your grass, you can lose this. This is a Cumberland sidewalk extension question. This needs to be separated from the rest.
I agree.
I am very concerned, I'm very concerned that every time we have this conversation, the rest of the work gets held hostage to Cumberland Extension. I want to separate these two things out.
Fair.
One thing has to operate, the Cumberland Extension has to operate on its own time frame because this requires community consultation. To be blunt, we do not need to have a community consultation on the curb
Everything.
ramps and the
Okay.
gutters and the drop-offs.
All right.
This is
that-
very
that-
okay.
Well, relative to the sidewalk extension for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it would still be sensible to let the town, once we have our phased plan or our proposed phased
Right,
plan,
right.
to let the town know and engage with it, that there will be
All right.
a
thank you.
construction site throughout town
All
for
right,
X
then.
months of time. I think it would be
Then
good
let's
for
wait
them,
on it.
yeah.
That has to
Yeah.
come to the council anyway, because I'm sure this job is going to be so big that it has to be a council
All
decision.
right, then I would wait on that.
So
You're right.
automatically, it's going to
But
be.
let's hear from Shannon, who is distal. Any thoughts, Shannon, on whether it's the 3+3+1 plan or anything else that you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think that cutting it up like that makes sense, but are we able to get more information about costs without us paying more?
EJ, can you match that?
Good question.
EJ, get us more costs without paying more.
I mean, it might be a very small cost,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be any sort of
All right,
significant additional cost.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does make sense. And, you know, the Cumberland sidewalk extension is a separate issue. I think I agree. And then my only other concern is that, you know, with all of these sidewalks that we're doing, the repairs and everything set up for them, like, you know, do they study like how the trees that they're going to be utilizing, like the tree roots, like take shape within the sidewalks? I mean, because that seems to be the root of all evil, with the sidewalks kind of coming up or down based on these tree roots. And, you know, if we go and do a bunch of different things and we still have all the trees, is that going to be a factor?
They do mention the trees considerably as a problem in the report, and they say that in replacing and rebuilding sidewalks, some trees, we would lose some trees and have to replant them, is what they say.
And they say something interesting, Shannon, which is we may need to use different materials. Which is what,
Well,
what exactly do they mean by that?
There are, you can see them in DC, there are basically rubber,
Oh,
Yes,
that was a
and-
guess.
DC and consistent.
to absorb the potential uprooting.
they can expand.
Yeah, so,
Stretch.
but that in my mind means mucho dinero. That would be even more expensive, frankly.
Well, it's a bit more expensive.
But I
Um,
mean, even like just taking down new trees,
yeah.
you know, taking down trees and then replanting trees in these areas is gonna be costly too, you know.
That's true, that's true.
Yes, it is, yeah. All right, Debbie, any comments?
No, I'm done.
All right. A couple of thoughts myself. I'm not quite so pessimistic about a 10-year gap between doing one thing and doing another. I think, in other words, we should assume.
I mean, in 50 years, nothing has been done.
You could just save these studies though, because
What I'm trying to say
I
is
think you
that.
just explain what.
Most of us aren't going to be
What
here.
I'm trying to explain is that Kevin said that they could put design considerations into place such that when we when we have our curbs that are carefully arranged 6 inches up, that they would not have to be rebuilt if we are then expanding the sidewalk. That they would try to put that design consideration in. I want them to put that design consideration in. I don't want them to just say, oh, well, they're never going to do the other stuff. I want it to be the design to allow for expansion of the sidewalk. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. That makes sense, yeah.
On terms of community engagement, I think the big community engagement has to be over when we are changing the sidewalks or expanding the sidewalk. That's when we have the town meeting. So I agree that is with you saying that. So, all right. So the plan then is we're asking them for cost estimates on the deal to Cumberland Corner only, not the whole thing, and for what was the other one? Oh yeah,
Surrey, Cumberland corner.
that's one they didn't give us a cost estimate for.
No, they gave for the whole block.
And we
Then
want,
Essex-
and we want the sidewalk lowered there. We don't want the road raised, right?
Yeah, I think that's important feedback to give the traffic group.
So the sidewalk lowering estimate. Okay. And the plan is as you said, the 3+3, which we're going to do. The one will be later. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the one will take more time because they will have to help us prepare for a consultation.
What do we want to do about their plan for a field survey of Cumberland as the first test case? Do we want to keep that still on our agenda and discuss it later, or do we say we'll just postpone that?
I recommend you keep it on the agenda and discuss it later. Let's discuss it together with all the other estimates.
Okay, all right. We're still not going to do it at this
Yeah.
moment. All right. Okay, good. We're only 45 minutes behind time.
That's it up. Let's do it. So a joint vote on all the from 5 to 8.
I come from New York, I can talk very fast.
Okay, yes, all right. So we move quickly on to the ordinances. When I say quick, I mean quick. Okay, so this is discussion on the proposed ordinance to amend the definition of the established building line, add requirements for driveway aprons and curb cuts. And I won't read the rest. This is basically the town taking over maintenance of driveway aprons is the discussion. And Ron, do you want to say more about it?
Sure. So as everyone will recall, at the last council meeting, we discussed this ordinance and council members were invited to send any proposed edits to me to incorporate into the draft for further discussion. President made some good comments to clarify some of the provisions, as he always does, including, for example, in paragraph H with respect to the construction of new sidewalks. We've added a provision that states abutting owners will receive notice when we're making changes to the sidewalks. And he made some other clarifying language to improve certain provisions. Also, Councilmember Khanna's made some suggestions that will require discussion because those are, in my opinion, substantive edits. And Rohit, do you want to go through them or do you want me to start the discussion?
I'll let you start it.
Okay. So the first two I highlighted in purple on, let me see, what page is this? On page 11 of the draft. And this, oh shoot, I just closed it, my mistake. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 second. Scroll down again. I'm sorry, page 12. So on page 12 of the draft, in section 170-6, non-conforming curb cuts and aprons. So this draft would provide that there can only be one curb cut per property in order to preserve street parking. But this is a grandfathering provision that would say if you have more than one curb cut as of December 5, 2011, the multiple curb cuts can remain lawful and may continue in use. That's actually in the code now, and the operative date is December 5, 2011. And Councilmember Khan is recommending that we put a time limit on the grandfathering and that we say the non-conforming acceptability will expire in December of 2075, or if someone puts on a major addition of 200 square feet or more. And so, you know, that's something substantive that the council would need to discuss. You know, from the legal perspective, with respect to, you know, nonconformities, the general rule is you want them to go away over time. So, for example, if we adopt, you know, a new front setback requirement, any house that encroaches into that as of the day the setback is adopted is allowed to remain. Obviously, we don't tell people you have to tear down your house and move it back, etc. But if they ever tore down the entire house voluntarily in order to rebuild it, then they would have to comply with the new setback. A grandfathering provision is an exception to that general rule and is meant to address hardship situations. And so the policy discussion for the council here is, would it be a hardship to remove that second apron? Council members Khanna, his notes are in the margins here, and he envisions that it's probably unlikely someone can demonstrate a hardship requiring a second curb cut. And there I can say, I generally agree. Most municipalities that have the one curb cut requirement only allow a second curb cut if they're on a really busy street where a circular drive is needed because it is unsafe to back up into traffic in order to get out of your lot. Or if you're on a corner lot, for example, and your driveway is real close to an intersection. So yeah, the council can certainly discuss those two, A and B. And I've also added, as a result of the discussions at the last meeting, an edit to remove from the variance process. Let me see, what page is this on? So as you'll recall, right now in the code, if someone wants a variance from one of the requirements of our building regulations, they can seek a variance and they can request that it be granted on one of two grounds. The first ground is what's common in the area, including at the county, where they have to prove there's something unusual about the lot, and the unusual condition of the lot creates a hardship or practical difficulty. But then the town of Somerset code is unique in that it also says, apart from that, or in the alternative, you can also argue that your construction doesn't interfere with sight lines or compatibility of the neighborhood, which is a much lower bar. And I say that's unique because, in fact, among the other clients I represent, nobody else has that. That is unique to Somerset. Most require a special condition that leads to a difficulty. And as Councilmember Khanna notes in his comments, the current code provision, and as we've experienced at hearings, is a rather low bar and very easy to prove entitlement to a variance. But as case law instructs us, variances are supposed to be limited exceptions, not just something just for convenience, but for an urgent necessity. So those are the major substantive changes to the code. Councilmember Khanna also has some other comments. Do we want to talk about those now, or do we want to get through what we've got here first? President Barr.
We have very little time left in the meeting. How quickly can you speak, Rohit?
Well, I can speak very quickly and say that I'm very grateful to Ron for making these revisions. I can go along with these and move them to the next council meeting. I think he has very accurately identified that, on the variances, we are out of step with other communities. When the exceptions become the rule is pointless. And so I think that the tightening of this language, I think, is excellent. And so I hope we can go with that. And then on the question of the grandfathering, as Ron has pointed out, grandfathering in perpetuity doesn't make any sense. The purpose of grandfathering is to make sure that current residents and current use is not jeopardized. And this proposal ensures that if you're going to do a major demolition or a major addition, that's already a major construction project. And certainly, by putting a 50-year limit on it, it ensures that the vast majority of current residents are not going to be affected by it. And as Ron has rightly pointed out, there's of course always the hardship variance provision that, let's say somebody who needs a variance from that, they can come for it. So that is my suggestion. Those are my suggestions. I did have some broader ones, but I think those we can set aside for now. Thank you.
All right, other comments on that?
I have a quick comment, and that is, I think 50 years is too much. We can debate this later on, but I want to go on record, I think 50 years is just defeats some of our purposes to make things better.
I'm happy
So-
to go with less, yes.
So when we come back and to talk about this, I would like to address that.
So it doesn't sound like we're ready to move this one on, so we will hold it for further discussion at the next work session then.
No, but sorry, just,
Okay.
can I just ask, I mean, when you say that, on what basis, I mean, can we have a round and see if we have 3 council members?
That
who are
wanna
ready to
move it.
who are ready to move forward?
Well,
Why not?
Shannon,
We
your
haven't- yeah.
thoughts?
Well, as I had told, Rohit, my concern was really just about like, with the multiple curb cuts like that, if you have a house that has a circular driveway already in place, as Ron says, which is like, there's one in Surrey, I think there's one on Cumberland, like there's not that many. But, I really do think that like that's a part of the house that, when you purchase a house that has that in the front yard. And so no matter what, unless you tear it down, to me, it should be allowed to stay.
That's what the text allows for, Shannon, now. Only
Oh.
in the event that you're either tearing it down or you're doing a major renovation, then the grandfathering no longer applies, but I fully agree.
But I
with
mean,
you.
if you're doing a major renovation on your house, like it's probably not gonna affect that driveway.
Well, that's the discussion we should have, yeah, what that threshold is for a major renovation.
Kabir?
Yeah, I think it would be worth, I'm not comfortable moving this forward.
We're not there yet.
We're not, but I appreciate all the line of thinking and it'd be good to have another.
Yeah.
I mean, Council President Barr, one option we do have is, we could proceed with the ordinance as is and just hold those 2 edits for future discussion so that we don't hold up the rest.
Yeah,
You
I'm
wanna do
fine
that?
with that. I'd move it forward.
Yeah,
I think that was the idea of having this work session, decide whether to do that. Or if we were gonna do all these changes.
Yeah.
I would be in favor of doing that myself.
And that's
So
why
what
it
does
has
that
to be.
mean? Sorry, just to clarify, so we will discuss these changes at the full council meeting.
No, what we do is adopt the ordinance and then you bring up those 2 changes at the next work session for us to decide whether we're going to put them on the agenda.
Well, no, we have to, so first of all, this has to be reintroduced.
Reintroduced, yeah.
And then we can decide whether, then it can be amended when it's voted on.
Right. It could be reintroduced without the purple edits.
Yeah,
So
that's,
that
that's
the
up to
reintroduce.
you of all.
And then introduce as amendments at the council meeting.
Yeah, you could do that and see if it passes.
Uh,
But see,
I think
right
that-
after this session, we're having the council meeting to reintroduce this, so you'll be able to decide then, so think about it,
Yeah,
how you
but
wanna do it.
I will say, I think we do need more discussion of the proposed amendments because we have different views among the members and
Okay, so, but you can discuss that when in a few minutes, when we have our
I
council.
would have a
meeting.
slight preference to do a discussion at a work session rather than make an amendment.
right.
But I think we will arrive at a good consensus with the group. I just think we need mental bandwidth into it.
Yeah.
we just don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Next work session, I don't know who's gonna be here.
Oh,
Well, no, well, I think we're going to get rid of the August work session with any luck, but
well, I'll be here.
the idea that Ron proposed stands, which is that we can go ahead in introducing the ordinance at our next council meeting without the edits, and we can add the edits if we decide they're appropriate at the next work session.
The next council meeting.
Well, you'll be
in the
deciding
next
that
5 minutes.
today, you'll
In
be
5
deciding that
minutes from now.
today.
Well, we
Yeah.
can reintroduce it at why do we need to reintroduce it now? We'll do it at the next council meeting.
Which is in 15
Which is in
minutes.
15 minutes, yes.
We're having a council meeting to reintroduce it because,
No rush.
Because the mayor properly pointed out, and the town manager pointed out, the charter provides that ordinances go stale after 60 days. So you have to reintroduce them.
Right, and remember, it was on the agenda this month. And it was moved to a time certain, so it's already on the agenda for September.
Oh.
So it has to be reintroduced,
Okay,
Introduce so we can adopt it at the next,
so you can consider it at the next.
session.
so we will,
Right.
So that does shorten the window.
well,
So
no,
road
but,
test-
hang
But you
on.
can always reintroduce if you need more discussion.
Yeah,
So we will reintroduce the amendment without the ordinance without the amendments proposed this evening. We'll do
In
that
purple.
in purple, right?
or no.
At the next work session, which we'll discuss when that is, we will discuss the proposed amendments. And if we agree that they can be added, then we'll add them when we vote on this at a future meeting. All right. Okay,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
all right, all right.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing. I don't think there's anything else we have time
We've
for.
got the real estate disclosure and the lease disclosure ordinances.
Mhm.
Right. It's almost, it's 7:25 already is the issue.
Okay.
Move those two forward.
All right, we'll try it. Does anybody have any comments on the proposed fees in the resolution to amend the permit fee and activity schedule? Kabir, you thought you had a comment earlier.
My only
Oh,
comment.
sorry, please, can we just clear which,
I thought we were talking about
which one are we
the
talking?
disclosure ones.
Well, I'm sorry, I
No,
jumped
he
the gun.
skipped
We're-
over, he skipped.
Item number 6 is the
We're at
permit
6.
fee resolution.
I appreciated you jumping over because I thought 7 and 8 might require minimal discussion to move forward.
But
I
we're
could be
on
wrong.
6 now.
Okay, we're on
Yeah,
6.
step by.
All right, we can. go
So
back to-
do you want to move that do three of you want to put, do at least 3 of you want to put that on the September agenda?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
that's cool. And what about 7 and 8?
Yes.
I'm gonna put this on the September agenda.
I'm happy with both of them too.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll have to leave the other 2 items for future discussion, I think. 3 items.
Sorry, where are we now?
So,
We're at 9 and 10 and 11, and I don't think we've got time for
What did we
those.
decide, sorry, what did we decide about 7 and 8?
that's gonna be on the,
Good.
it's gonna be on the, it can be considered in September.
September
There's just one small editing thing that on the rental one. So we'll just, before I forget.
This is just minor.
It's very minor.
You can amend it.
I'll just.
Okay, so, but Councilor Khanna, is the discussion of the safe sidewalks, say I forget when that's supposed to be?
Sorry.
When was the proposal for safe sidewalks day?
What
What
does it say?
month?
Okay, I mean,
What month, do we need to discuss it because it's a time?
I had suggested late September or early October when
right, so the question is simply are we gonna have another work session to discuss it, or if not,
Well-
then.
well, that we can talk
don't
about
know
it
what
if we can.
is, So
We don't know what.
The next work
There's a
session
memo,
is
there's a
scheduled,
memo-
the
memo in
next-
package.
the next work session is scheduled for August 18th.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem. All right, so
So we're gonna defer all these 9, 10, and 11 to the next work session?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
yes, so moved.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. Look, on the camera policy, can I, rather than put it to the next work session, can I do a change in that? Can we please refer this draft to the relevant town committees so that we're not losing a month here?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so now, and the, okay, you can do that. Oh, okay, good. So now I'm calling to order the special town council meeting. And, so in terms of the agenda, did you want to add an item on,
Yes,
the
trees.
consideration of, yeah, you gotta add, okay, the trees,
If we
right?
wanted to add, wanted to add to the agenda,
Can you read what that is?
trees.
You want to add to the
Removal
agenda?
of trees.
The
for
removal of 4 trees
tree
as
removal
outlined by
Yes,
Dr.
okay,
Feather.
By-
Okay, and do you want to add on the
Exactly what I was
agenda,
gonna be
do you
thinking.
want to add on the agenda, cancellation of the August work session?
Yeah, I propose
Okay.
that we have a short work session immediately before the September meeting.
Okay, well, do you want to add this item? Just, okay, so I think it's added. Is there a motion on the agenda as amended? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, fine. So the first item, does anyone, we have to, legally, we have to have a public comment period. Did anyone
No.
wish to speak? Okay, thank you. So the first item is the reintroduction of this ordinance to amend the definition of the established building line, et cetera. Is there a motion?
So
to
moved.
introduce it? Is there a second? Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we will call to the podium our town arborist, Dr. Feather. Thank you for bearing with us. One council member was very concerned.
No, okay. I think he should go at the beginning of the agenda, not
No,
the
no,
end of
no,
the
no,
agenda.
that's.
Let the man speak,
Okay.
please.
That's irrelevant. Right. We
Well,
can't.
trees fault anyway.
It's hard enough to come up with the agenda.
All right.
It's too bad.
So, there's four trees, one's private, which is at 4825 acres.
Do they need to be done separately? Okay,
It's a willow, 14-inch diameter, and the top is died. And the resident wants to remove it, and I agree. With the second tree is the public tree at 5419 Effingham. You can see in the picture the top is died on that one, hazardous, and I want to remove that. We'll replace it fall. Third, 4714 Fallstone, it's a cherry that was pointed out to me. The trunk, and you know, it's gonna be kind of a shame to lose that, the tree itself. But, it's time to take it down and we'll replace that in the fall. And the fourth is at 5801 Deal on the corner of Deal and Dorset. On the left side, if you're facing Dorset. And it's a fine cherry convention. It's just not, doesn't look good, it's done. I'd like to move that, replace it in the fall.
okay, thank you. Council President Barr, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Councilor Heller,
Nope.
Councilor Kumar, Councilor Rovak. Do you have any questions? About the
No,
trees?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say, like, I don't know why we really have a council meeting to discuss the tree removals. If Dr. Feather agrees, like, I don't think any.
Because that's what our code requires.
I know, but I'm just gonna say that for the record, like, if he agrees, like, who am I to be like, oh, no, that tree won't come true.
Because sometimes a resident opposes it.
It gives us an opportunity to.
Okay,
represent
thank
our
you.
residents.
Okay, council member, Connor, do you have any
No
questions? Did anyone? Council prepared to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve Dr. Feather's recommendations to remove the 3 town trees and 1 private tree. Second is correct.
Is there discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And now our last item is a proposal that I will let the council president make.
Yes, I move that we cancel the August 18th.
Well, why don't you just say what it is and then we can have discussion. about
All
it.
right, okay, the 2 of us will be out of town. I'll be out of the country on August the 18th.
So what's your proposal?
I'm proposing that we instead have a work session immediately before the September council meeting. So it's like half an hour before the council meeting. And
Well, we'll need more than that.
an hour.
How about an hour?
An hour.
So you're proposing that, so you're proposing that on Monday,
That's Labor Day.
Monday, September
First.
7th, 8th,
8th.
Monday, no, is it Tuesday? Is it
No,
Monday?
at the
No, the
council
council
meeting
is on
is scheduled for the
Tuesday the
Tuesday
2nd.
afternoon.
So you're saying that you would like to reschedule the work session to Tuesday, September 2nd at 5:30?
Can we make it 6:30 and get it down to an hour?
I think we need the 2 hours.
I think we.
2 hours,
need to
okay,
leave-
5:30
I think
then.
5:30.
All right.
I
I
can
just
do
wanna
Okay,
say,
okay,
I'll be out
okay,
of
that's the
the
proposal.
I'll be
I
out.
So-
can't do that.
So hold on,
I'm gonna
hold
be out of
on.
the country.
So this is the proposal. Do you have any questions, Councilmember Heller?
No, just have a comment that I will be out of the country on September 2nd. I'll have a hard time. I'll be in London. It's gonna be. a
Okay,
little
so you're
hard.
not coming to the meeting anyway.
You're not coming to the council meeting.
Not if it's on the 2nd.
Okay.
It has been. on
Okay,
the-
council member Kumar, do you have any questions about it?
No, I can make that work.
Okay, Councilor Rovak.
I don't think we should do this because we're already missing in a council meeting in August, so it could be a
Okay.
very lengthy night, and to
We're not-
tack on 2 hours to it seems really.
Okay, so you're opposed
We're
to
not,
it.
we're not, well, hang on, we're not missing the council meeting in August. We're having the council meeting in August.
No, we're not.
We're
You're
not.
No,
Oh, okay, whatever.
no, it was already canceled,
Oh,
It was
okay.
canceled.
but we
So
didn't.
I mean,
can-
I can't sit there for 6 hours, so.
Okay, so you're, okay, Councilor Khanna, do you have any questions about it?
I'm fine with it, with a lot of sympathy for Shannon's position, but I'm personally okay with it.
Okay, well, I'm opposed to canceling the August work session. So does someone want to make a motion? So
Yes.
do you want to make a
I'll
motion?
make the motion that we cancel the council work session.
So wait a second, let's,
No. Your proposal is that you're canceling the work session and then
yes.
we're postponing it until September 2nd at 5:30.
So to
So there is a second on that.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing
Why
none.
why are we
all-
canceling the council work session in August? Why can't we reschedule?
He already said, he
You
already,
can
he
reschedule
made a
September
proposal.
2nd.
He made,
I think-
okay, the proposal is that you're debating and you can all vote no on it. The proposal is to postpone the August work session, which is supposed to be August 18, to September 2nd at 5:30. That's what you're voting on. So you can discuss it and then vote on it.
On discussion, I just want to make one point. I think we cancel the August council meeting because folks were traveling. It was designed early in the year. So I'm always comfortable making additional accommodation if Robin and others are traveling. That's all. We are trying to accommodate each other and make it work. So that's all I wanted to say. If he's not here, it would be nice for him to be here. I don't want to move forward with the work session. If he's not around. And but I appreciate Shannon's point that it's painful. But if that's the only way to go about it, I'm happy to make it work.
So to clarify, there is no date in August that works for work session.
But the motion, what
No,
you're
for
discussing
discussion,
right
for
now,
discussion. Are we not discussing this?
I mean, you can amend it.
Yeah.
You can amend the motion.
Well,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
EJ, what does the September agenda look like?
I won't know quite until closer to the date, but I can already tell you that there will probably be a couple of building permit applications on it.
Yeah, we can't make this meeting an hour and a half longer on top of that. That's crazy talk.
Okay, so do you have an amendment?
Wait, hold on.
I have an amendment that I will not be able to be there.
Let's not do any amendments. We are discussing.
I just say something, that the reason I brought up to cancel the August meeting, wasn't that we're necessarily traveling. Yes, some of us will be, but that other municipalities don't meet in August, and why
They
would
don't
we
do the
meet?
kind of work
That's
we
fine.
do.
So that was the.
That's
that
why it
was
never
it.
should have been canceled.
Okay.
Well, do we want?
You're paying for it right now,
I'm
because it
paying
never
for it.
should have been canceled.
My fault. So let's have an August meeting.
You want to have an August
No,
council
I'll do
meeting
it.
or a council work session? What are you?
I can do it the last week in August if, I'll be back, but.
You know,
you
we all
won't be.
can't always be at a meeting.
Well, I think the most important thing is the council president, I think, needs to be here for
Exactly.
the work session, no?
He runs the work session.
Yeah, but Jeffrey can
Well,
run it.
Okay,
Yes, I can run.
I just need to make sure that the presiding.
But, okay, so right now, what you're discussing right now is the motion to move the August work session to September 2nd at 5:30. So does anybody want to amend that?
Well,
I
I have
wish
one
to
more
amend-
question for Robin. Robin, are you the only one? Is Robin the only one traveling on the 18th?
Debbie's out of.
I'll be out of town, but I could probably.
So there are two of us that can't make the 18th.
I
Well,
can
I
be
can-
here on the 18th.
I can be
Okay.
there, I probably can't stay for the whole meeting. That's all. Either
Okay,
the beginning.
and then what about the end of August week, the last week in August, can folks be available then?
The last week of
So give us a date, Rob.
Let's also find out, also the town attorney's availability.
Yes, we can do that.
So do you want, do you have an
Let's go with
amendment?
Robin first.
I can
Robin,
go from the 26th through the 29th. anyway.
You're available that week,
Yeah.
26, 29.
I'm coming back on
Okay.
the 25th.
I'm,
Debbie?
I'm available. I have a full committee meeting, but I have one right now anyway.
Okay,
So
Rohit,
I
I'm
can,
available 26th, 25th, the week of the 25th. yes.
you available? Shannon, are you available?
I think so, unless there's a school evening thing, but I don't think there is.
So should we do it that week?
the 26th.
So do
26th,
you want to
not
make
25th.
it, do you want to, Councilmember Kumar, do you want to make an amendment that the,
Monday, yeah,
to
so I
amend this so that the
propose-
work session is Tuesday, August 26th at 5:30?
Or Monday, or.
No,
He
I'm
can't
flying
do
back.
that.
No.
Okay,
He's on
so
the
is
Tuesday.
Tuesday workable?
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
amend the proposed proposed work session date to August 26th at 5:30.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Fantastic,
Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Thank you, everybody. Happy summer.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Good
everybody.
job.
Oh, Ron,
Oh, is Ron available?
Yes, I am.
Forgot to ask.
Ron who?
EJ is available? You're the
Okay,
star.
so I have a question. When we make the agenda.